Imagine waking up before the sun. The air is cold, carrying the smell of dust, leather, and burning torches. Around you, thousands of men are doing the same, rising from their sleeping mats, tightening their armor, murmuring prayers to Ahura Mazda, the great god of light. You are not just any soldier. You are a warrior of the most powerful empire the ancient world has ever seen. You serve the King of Kings, the Shahanshah, ruler of Persia. And today could be the day everything changes. Today, we're stepping back over 2,500 years into the beating heart of the achaemenid Persian Empire, and we're spending an entire day inside the life of one of history's most formidable warriors. Before we dive in, if you're enjoying these ancient stories, don't forget to hit subscribe and tap like. It really helps the channel grow. And tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time period you want to explore next. Let's begin at dawn. Dawn, waking in the empire. The year is approximately 480 BCE. The Persian Empire stretches from the banks of the Indus River in the east all the way to Egypt in the west, nearly 3 million square miles of territory. It is the largest empire the world has ever known. And you, a soldier called Arya, meaning noble in Old Persian, are somewhere in the middle of it all. Arya is not just any soldier. He is a Sparabara, a shield-bearer infantryman, one of the backbone soldiers of the Persian army. He enlisted because military service brings honor, pay, and perhaps most importantly, a share of the empire's legendary spoils. He wakes inside a military camp, a city of tents, organized with Persian efficiency. Officers move through rows of soldiers. Rations are being distributed. There is order here, discipline. The Persian army was remarkably multicultural. Walking through this camp, Arya passes soldiers from Medes, Babylonians, Egyptians, Lydians, Scythians, even Indians. They speak different languages, wear different colors, carry different weapons, yet they march under the same banner. That banner? A golden eagle, the symbol of Persian might. Arya splashes water on his face from a clay vessel, whispers a prayer. Ahura Mazda, grant me strength, grant me honor, and if this is my final day, grant me a worthy death. He buckles on his armor and heads to the morning formation. Morning, equipment, and breakfast. Let's talk about what Arya is wearing, because Persian military equipment is fascinating. Unlike the heavy bronze plate of Greek hoplites, Persian infantrymen were designed for speed and flexibility. Arya wears a tunic of thick linen, layered for protection. Over it, a scale corset, hundreds of small iron or bronze scales sewn onto leather backing, overlapping like fish scales. It's lighter than plate armor, allowing him to move quickly. On his head, a soft felt tiara, or sometimes a wicker helmet reinforced with bronze. Nothing like the great Corinthian helmets of the Greeks. The Persians preferred visibility and comfort in the field. His most important piece of equipment? His wicker shield, large, body length, curved at the top, called a spada. It's what gives his unit their name, Sparabara. These shields were planted in the ground to create an instant defensive wall, a tactic that terrified enemies across the ancient world. Behind the shield-bearers like Arya stood archers, among the finest in the ancient world, who rained down arrows from behind the protective wall of shields in coordinated, devastating volleys. Arya also carries a short iron spear for thrusting, and at his side a short iron sword, or achaemenid, used when combat gets close. Breakfast is simple. Flatbread baked on campfires, dried figs, and perhaps some salted fish. For soldiers on the march, rations were carefully organized. Persian logistics were ahead of their time. Supply lines followed the army with grain, livestock, and even wine. He eats quickly. The day will be long. Midday. Training and the Persian way of war. After morning rations, Arya reports to his unit commander, his Hazarapati, an officer commanding 1,000 men. Today is a training day. Not every day is a battle. In fact, for most soldiers, the majority of their service is marching, waiting, and drilling. Persian military training emphasized 3 things above all, and this comes straight from their own culture and texts: riding, archery, and speaking truth. The nobility trained on horseback from childhood, but for infantry soldiers like Arya, it's footwork, formations, and coordinated shield wall tactics that are drilled relentlessly. Arya's unit forms up, hundreds of men, shields forward, locking into position. The officer barks in Old Persian, "Spada, hold, forward." The wall advances, slow, steady, like a wave rolling in. This is what made Persian armies so terrifying, not individual warriors, but coordinated mass action. While Greek battles were often decided by individual heroics, Persian strategy was about overwhelming force. Archery waves followed by infantry walls, followed by cavalry flanking. At the height of the Achaemenid Empire under Xerxes I, the Persian army could field hundreds of thousands of men from dozens of nations. Historians argue about the exact numbers, but this much is certain: no army on earth could match Persian scale. Arya drills for hours under the desert sun. His arms ache, his legs burn. But there is pride in this, in being part of something enormous. Afternoon. Persian culture in camp. By afternoon, the formal duties ease, and this is where Arya gets a window into something remarkable: the Persian Empire's extraordinary cultural richness. The Persians were not conquerors who crushed what they conquered. Under Cyrus the Great, the empire's founder, a revolutionary idea took hold: tolerance. Conquered peoples were allowed to keep their languages, their religions, their customs. It was almost unheard of in the ancient world. The famous Cyrus Cylinder, often called the world's first human rights charter, declared that peoples of the empire should live in peace, worship freely, and not be enslaved. In camp, Arya sees this in living color. Near his tent, an Egyptian soldier burns incense before a small idol of Horus. Across the camp, Babylonian soldiers play a dice game, laughing loudly. A Lydian merchant moves through selling dried fruit and cloth. Arya himself prays to Ahura Mazda, the supreme deity of Zoroastrianism, the Persian state religion. It is a faith built on the cosmic battle between light and darkness, truth and lies. Soldiers were expected to embody Asha, truth and righteousness. Lying, it was said, was the gravest sin a Persian could commit. The great Darius I had it carved in stone at Behistun. "By the grace of Ahura Mazda, I am king. I love what is right. I hate what is wrong." Arya sits beneath a palm tree, sharpening his blade, and thinks of home, his village near Persepolis, his wife, his young son. He hopes he lives to find out. Evening. The Immortals and the Hierarchy. As the sun drops below the horizon and the camp lights its thousands of torches, Arya witnesses something that never fails to send a chill down his spine. The Immortals are drilling. 10,000 elite warriors, the Anushia, the personal guard of the Persian king. They were called Immortals because whenever one fell in battle, he was immediately replaced, keeping the unit perpetually at exactly 10,000 strong. They are the finest soldiers the empire produces, chosen for physical strength, loyalty, and skill. Their spear butts are shaped like golden pomegranates, a mark of prestige. Their robes are decorated with embroidered patterns. Even in war, they carry an air of ceremony. Arya watches them move with mechanical precision and feels a pang, part envy, part aspiration. To be an immortal is the dream of every Persian soldier. The Persian military hierarchy is strict. At the top, the Hazarapati and Baiwarabam, commanders of thousands and 10,000s. Beneath them, officers of hundreds, down to the squad leaders commanding just 10 men. Pay was distributed on a sliding scale. A common sparabara like Arya earned enough silver to support a family, not lavish but respectable. And the promise of war spoils was always there, glittering in the back of every soldier's mind. Arya eats his evening meal, lentil stew with herbs and a cup of diluted wine, and listens to an older soldier tell stories of campaigns in Egypt, of sailing on the Nile, of pyramids so vast they seemed to touch the sky. The younger men hang on every word. Nightfall, a soldier's reflection. As Arya wraps himself in his blanket and stares up at a sky blazing with stars, he does not think of glory, not tonight. He thinks of what it means to be part of this empire. He has walked beside men who speak languages he cannot understand, worshipped gods he does not know, eaten food he'd never tasted back home. And yet they stand together, march together, bleed together. The Persian Empire, at its peak, was something the world had never seen before and would not see again for centuries. A vast, diverse, functioning civilization held together not just by force, but by law, tolerance, and shared identity. It would eventually fall to Alexander the Great in 330 BCE, but for over 200 years it stood as the greatest power on earth. And men like Arya, unnamed, unremembered by history, were its backbone. Not kings, not generals, just soldiers, rising before the sun, drilling in the heat, praying to their God, missing their families, and carrying their shields one more day. That is the real story of any empire, not the kings on their thrones, but the men sleeping in the dust, under the stars, ready to rise again tomorrow.